Welcome back to That Dad Guy. Hopefully you have had a good week. I've noticed that you put a few questions for me to answer, which is great, and we're going to get to them here shortly. Thanks so much for all your comments. Every week people are asking questions, so every week I get to answer some questions. So I think this video series is doing well. We're on part 8 already, which is hard to believe. I wasn't sure we were going to get past part 3 at one point in time. So yeah, here we continue to go. One of the things that someone had made comment was that I'm always looking off camera. It's kind of distracting. Why am I doing that? Well, this is why. I'm going to pick it up. So there's the computer. There are all the questions that people are asking me. So when I'm looking off, I am reading the questions. So I'm looking at the screen here and scrolling through to make sure I haven't missed any. So if you see my eyes going that way, it's because I'm looking at the screen trying to read what people have written so I don't miss any comments. And that's also why I asked that when you rate your questions, you rate them at the tail end of the last video that I did, because that's the only video I'm looking at for comments. So if you put them in another video and ask a question, I'm not going to see them. If you've written them on a postcard, I'm not going to remember probably to go back to that postcard to answer that question. So it just keeps things nice and tidy for me, is that I do one of these videos. At the end I say, ask your questions. That's where you respond. You put your questions in there. So when I look at it the following week, it's all on one page and I know exactly where to go to find the questions. Otherwise, I'd have to be flipping through a whole bunch of different videos looking for questions, and I'm probably going to miss things that way as well. So this keeps it handy. It also gives you the chance that these videos come out on Saturday, so you have till Saturday, till the following Friday to ask your question, and that way it won't get missed. If, for example, on Saturday you decide, oh, I'm going to ask a question, and you put it in this video, I may have already shot the video, and that way your question won't be seen, and then we'll go into the following week, and it'll be a new video you're going to have to ask it on. So if that's not so confusing, all I'm asking is that at the end of each one of these videos, that's where you leave your question. So we'll do part 8 now, and we'll see what you got for me. All right, so the first question I see here is from Melanie in Quebec, Canada, and she asks, does Canada Post offer promotional stuff for their employees? The answer to that is mostly no. I say mostly because if I go into a corporate post office and I want to buy a collectible, so a stamped album or first day covers, I get a discount on that. If I'm just buying postage stamps or postcards, then no, there's no discount for Canada Post employees, just on collectibles. And then around Christmas time, we get a guide that has different businesses that do business with Canada Post. They put out a guide, so if you want to buy shoes at Mark's Work Warehouse, you might get a 10% discount as a Canada Post employee. We have things like that come out too. But that's about it. There's not a lot of discounts, but for me as a person who is showing collectibles on YouTube, it's nice to get a little bit of a discount every once in a while on some of the collectible things. Like when I bought that box that had first day covers in it, I got a discount on it. So that was kind of nice. All right, thank you, Melanie. The next question comes from Wendy in New Brunswick. And she says, what's the worst weather you've ever experienced? That's question 1. Have you ever been stranded on the road somewhere because of the weather? And maybe your car broke down in crappy weather. Have you ever had to call a tow truck because of bad weather? Okay, so we have 3 or 4 weather-related questions. What's the worst weather you've ever experienced? So in 1992, this is the worst weather we've ever experienced here in Moncton. We had 5 feet of snow fall in a 24-hour period. So it caused the roads to be completely covered. We had industrial buildings that had roofs collapse because of the amount of snow that was on top of them. I remember skidoos going up and down the streets with RCMP on them. The banks were so high that you couldn't get out. We didn't have school for, I think it was 4 days as a result of it. There was people that didn't have power. So that was the worst storm that I've ever experienced. I was in high school at the time, just finishing high school actually. And yeah, so that was the worst weather I've ever experienced. Have I ever been stranded on the road somewhere because of weather? Yes, 2 times really. When I was coming back from Truro, Nova Scotia, it was in the wintertime, and I was driving through the old Wentworth Valley. So for those of you who don't know geography in our area, Truro is in Nova Scotia, and I live in Moncton, New Brunswick, and I came along the road, and there was a big hill. And so I was going down the hill, and I could see that cars had been scattered everywhere as a result of going down this hill because it was so icy. People were going off the road. And when I went down, I went off the road too. It took me a little while, but I was able to get enough power to get back on the road and continue on very, very slowly. It used to be, at that time, about a 2-hour drive between Truro and Moncton, and I think it took me 6 or 7 hours to do it that day just because of the conditions. So I wasn't stranded per se, but ice did make things very difficult for me. But the one time that I was stranded, my wife and I were moving out to Vancouver, and we were driving cross country, and we were in northern Ontario just past Thunder Bay. I hadn't realized that the roads were closed because of the weather conditions, and we ended up going off the road where my car was packed full of with our dog and all of our belongings that we were moving out west with, and the roads were slippery, and we ended up going off the road. But luckily there was a big pickup truck that was in front of us that noticed us go off the road, so it came back for us, took the 2 of us and the dog, and took us on to a gas station. And at that gas station, they told us about a fishing lodge that was still open that we could stay in. So somebody else took us on to that place, and we spent the night there. There was no power. At the place we were staying at, they gave us bologna sandwiches in the morning. A tow truck came and picked me up by myself to go back and look for the car to get it out of the ditch where it was. And when we went back, there was just a little glimmer of blue paint showing out of the snow where I thought the car had gone off. And sure enough, that's where it was. It was buried under snow now because of the snowstorm. They got us out, and we carried on. And that was on November 11th of 1997, I think. That was the date, November 11th, 1997. So that was the one time that I was stranded as a result. I had to call a tow truck for that. We've had to call tow trucks for other things, but that was the only one because of weather. So I hope that answers all those questions, Wendy, so thank you so much. The next one comes from Kristen in Sweden, and she said, "Isn't it time to be out there gathering sap and making maple syrup?" All right, that's question number 1. And question number 2, does your mail carrier know who that dad guy is? Well, let me quickly answer question number 2. I do know my mail carrier. He knows that I'm also a letter carrier, so he knows who I am. Whether he knows about that dad guy, I don't know. He knows that I get lots of postcards, that's for sure. But he probably doesn't know about my YouTube channel, and I'm fairly certain he's never watched it. So if he has, great, continue to watch it. But he does know who I am. And the funny thing is, I used to be his mail carrier, so he would deliver my mail here, and then I would deliver his mail over there in the morning. He has since moved location, so he's not on my route anymore. But at one point in time, we were each other's mail carriers. That's how we knew each other. All right, the first question, isn't it time to be out there gathering sap to make maple syrup? Actually, yes, it is. So I don't have any trees that are tapped. I don't have any maple trees in my yard. But yeah, those that do have maple trees, they are tapped now. And this is actually the perfect time, the last few weeks, to go out and get your maple products. Because long as the temperature is cool in the evening, so below freezing at night, and then during the day in the single digits, basically, the sap will run. So the last 3 weeks, that's the kind of the weather pattern we've had, that at night it's cool, and then in the morning and the afternoon, it's a little bit warmer. So yeah, now's the time to go to the sugar camps. You can go down there and wander in and get your popsicle stick, and they'll pour hot maple syrup on the snow, and you can roll it up and it becomes like hard candy. So that's one of the things you do right now. You can buy maple cream, which comes in a little tub, and it's kind of a thick maple sauce. Well, not sauce, but It's like butter. So, and you can spread it on your toast, and you can get maple butter too. It comes in looks like a brick of butter. That's how it's wrapped. And then of course maple syrup. So you can go in and you can have pancake breakfasts and all sorts of things at the sugar camp. So this is the time to do it. So you are right. I don't do it. But I have gone into the sugar camps and had those experiences. We used to take the kids every year to go in there and roll the candy on the snow and have that. And my wife certainly liked to get the maple butter and maple cream to put on hers for her sweet tooth. So yeah, so if you're in an area that does maple syrup production, now is the time to go back into the camps and see it. All right, so thanks for that, Kristen. The next up, and it looks like the last two, comes from Allie in New Brunswick. So we're getting some local questions, local people this time around. And she says, people who aren't from North America often confuse Canadians and Americans or think that we are the same. What would you say is the main difference between us? It's a very, very common thing, yes, when people see us and say that, you're American. I said, no, we're Canadian. And they say, well, what's the difference? It's very subjunctive, of course, because you can't say that all people are this and all people are that. But when they see the two nations, they're definitely a difference. Canada is still very much has ties with Great Britain. We still have the Queen as our on our money, and shows up on our stamps and head of our Parliament. So we have that aspect there. Some of our language still is very much British English versus American English. If you look like that, we use yous in our words, like in thought and color. There are yous in there. Humor, we use the you. Some of our words, though, we talk about aluminum. That is very American versus aluminium. Aluminium. I didn't even say it. It's hard to roll off the tongue. So we are a combination of both that way. I would say the main, when you talk about the United States, you would say that usually they're a very aggressive or straightforward country, where Canada is usually very passive. Sometimes our passive is passive aggressive, though, and I have heard that come off quite often too, that if you were to talk to some Americans, and I'm going to use some, not all, because not all Canadians or Americans are this and that, as I've said before, but they say that some Americans would tell you straight off to your face what they're thinking, and that comes off aggressive. I don't know if they say you're fat, or if they didn't like the way you were, or if they just had a strong opinion about something, they come off in your face. So that is an impression you get sometimes of Americans, and Canadians sometimes don't do that, but they say they're passive aggressive because when you leave the room, they might have another opinion about it. So they might say that, oh, your outfit looks interesting today. And then when you've left the room, they say, what was she or he thinking by wearing that? So you may not always be getting the truth, and that's not a great thing. It's kind of nice to have a blend. And once again, not all people are like that. You may go to a small town in Canada and a small town in the United States and be treated very well in both places. Doesn't mean we're the same, but you might get the same experience, because they say, oh, Canadians are very polite, very clean. Well, I've been to some American towns, and they've been very polite and clean as well. Yeah, I've been to big cities, and they've been dirty, and there's graffiti in it. But I've been into big cities in Canada too, and they've had problems too. So we both have them. But yeah, I would say the main difference is our connection to England and our traditions that continue. We still have a very British influence when you're here. I guess we're still part of the Commonwealth. The United States, in order to get their independence, they had a war. We got our independence by having a discussion. So, differences. And I know what you mean. She's from New Brunswick as well, Allie, and we do see when the Americans cross the border, sometimes They come across the border and they've got skis on the roof in the middle of summer. They don't know as much about us sometimes as we know about them. And yeah, we're different. And there's nothing wrong with being different. I've got some great American friends, and I think everything's gone well. And it's great just to be a part of this global community. Post-crossing is no different with that. The people that watch my YouTube channel are no different with that. Our differences are what makes it great. And I think the more we learn about one another, the easier it is to connect, to have experiences together. So yeah, Ali, I know that may or may not answer your question. And for those of you who are watching, you may still think that Canadians and Americans are the same. We're not. We're different countries. Just like if you were to say Sweden and Finland are the same because they're close in geography up there, or Norway. No, not the same. Let's go even within Great Britain to say Wales and Scotland and England, and they're all the same. They're not all the same. They have their own unique cultures, their unique things about them, and even dialects. Someone who listens to me may think that I sound like a New Brunswicker, or that I sound like a Canadian. Could be, but this is where I'm from, and I was raised by a mother who was born in Saskatchewan, raised in Nova Scotia, and my father is from England, and so the way I speak is going to be different than some of the statements and things that you're going to hear from someone else that's raised in the same area. It's just our combined experiences. And I know I'm rambling on, so I'm going to say, Ali, that's there's differences between us, but it's great. So thank you for that. Thank you for those questions. Sorry if I rambled on anything. Like you know, these videos, they're all off the cuff. So I talk as the wheels spin around, as the little hamster runs on the wheel. That's what you get. Sometimes it comes out as verbal diarrhea, and sometimes it comes out as a clean statement of thought that you can follow. And I think this time with the Canadian versus American thing, you got a bit of verbal diarrhea. Because I don't know how to answer really truthfully what the differences between us are, because we are so similar but so different in so many different ways. So thank you so much for watching this week. If you have more questions or even add-ons of the questions that you heard this week, go ahead, leave them in the comments of this video, and next Saturday I will answer those questions again. And hopefully we can get some new topics and things going on. This is great to have such a variety. We talk a bit about social politics. We talked a little about the weather. We talked about maple syrup season, and even Canada Post perks or lack thereof sometimes was this week's topics of communication. So leave your comments, like, subscribe, and yeah, just have a great week. And look forward to any other videos that you happen to be watching this week. You got yesterday's video that I put of what showed up in the mailbox that came out. Tomorrow I'm going to be writing a few postcards to go out, so you can tune in to see which ones are getting mailed out if you like. And then next week I also have a special video based on this envelope that you saw yesterday that came from Sweden. So that video is going to come out. I tend to put out about 4 videos a week right now. I put out one Friday, Saturday, and Sunday each week, and then one usually on either Tuesday or Wednesday. Monday I take as a break, Thursday I take as a break. This is not my full-time job. This is what I do for fun on YouTube. So I have to balance making my videos and producing them to put them out, running a household here, having my family, going to my full-time job, and relaxing a bit too. So I enjoy being able to sit back, look at the people that are joining my channel, and reading all the comments that are coming in. I find that super relaxing and fun. Writing postcards is fun and relaxing, so I do that too. And it's been great, but I have to remind myself sometimes that I do YouTube for fun. I don't get paid for doing it. I'm not at that scale of subscribers and watch time, so there's none of that. But it's just a way to get out there and connect with new people. And it's been great. I am coming up on almost a year I've been doing post-crossing, so I will do a video on that when I get to that stage, just to go over what I got within the course of a year, maybe talk about the countries that I've been in connection with. So that's an idea coming up. And even YouTube. When I started a long time ago, but I was only doing a few kids videos at that point in time, and then I didn't do anything for a while. And then in April, when I started doing post-crossing, I came back full tilt and started making videos on post-crossing. I was reading some kids books at the beginning too, because I was home recuperating from an injury from work, so I had to take some time off work. And so I decided, well, I'm going to go in and start making YouTube videos. So it's coming up on almost a year of regular videos coming out on my channel. So I'll probably look back at the numbers on that too, to see where I've gone in subscribers, how long it's taken to get to where we are now, and the transformation of what I used to do to what I'm doing now. Has there been any? And have I gotten any better at doing it? I guess is the other thing too. So I'm still having fun with it. Still enjoying putting together, and that's why I keep doing these videos. It's been a good distraction too from some of the world events that are going on, and also been nice to talk about it loosely in these videos too. It's a nice way to communicate with others that are having similar feelings about what's going on. There was a time when I thought maybe I shouldn't be doing YouTube videos anymore, that it wasn't appropriate or the right time for doing it, and people have encouraged me to continue going on and continue making it. It's been a distraction for them too. And I find when I sit down, I don't watch as much regular television as I do YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube, and you go down those rabbit holes watching, for me, travel shows or experiences with different places to eat around the world. I like those sort of things too. And sometimes it's just funny, humorous things that I find. I watch lots of British television clips and game shows and things that I've watched through that. That I didn't experience because they weren't on our regular television, but they did find up on YouTube. So I guess I have become a distraction for others because people tune in to watch what that dad guy does, and sometimes I get messages on Instagram saying I got a video coming out today. I don't want the pressure that I gotta have one come out every day, because then it turns it into a job, and I need to find that nice balance between making content and enjoying how things are going in my regular day-to-day life. And so, yeah, I think right now 4 videos a week is plenty. Would I like to be doing it 7 days a week? Some days, yes, I would. Some days I would like not to do it at all for a whole week, because I want to make sure that what I'm presenting continues to be fresh and entertaining, and people aren't just watching for the first 3 minutes and then turning it off and then not watching anymore. So I'll be curious to see how many people stick around to the end of me just jabbering on here when I said, okay, that's going to be it, and I continue to talk for another 8 minutes. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who sticks into the end to find out the magic word is 0.0.3. And you say, what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. I'm just making that up because this is called verbal diarrhea. And on that note, stay safe. What, Bolo? You say like, subscribe, share, and tell all your friends?
Who's a good boy? Who's a good boy?